Well, we're always pleased with the win, especially on the road. Mississippi State played a really good game. They've got a really good team. Dak Prescott is a tough guy to defend. Um, I know they gained a lot of yards today, but our defense did a really good job of not allowing a lot of points. Got them stopped inside the 5 and a couple times in the red zone, which I think is really, really important. Punt return, special teams play. One significant play on special teams, and we got it. We didn't play very well on offense in the first half. I think we played a little better in the second half. Kind of a weird game, where every touchdown was a big play. I think the way Mississippi State plays defense, there's a lot of big, little to it. They give you a lot of negative plays, which I think going into this game they had created 84 negative plays. But then sometimes, you get a hat on a hat and you make a big play against them. And we certainly did a good job of doing that a few times today. So really proud of our team. We've got a lot of things that we can learn from in this game. We got banged up a little bit today. Kenyon Drake will be out for a couple, 3 weeks probably. We're going to fix his arm tomorrow. He's got a fractured arm. A couple other guys. I don't know if anybody will miss a game. Minka's got a sprained knee. He may be out for a week or so. Reuben Foster hurt his wrist, but he was able to go back in the game, so I'm assuming he'll be okay, but won't know that for sure. But I think our team showed a lot of resiliency today to keep competing in the game, even when things weren't going very well. They started out the game and moved the ball, and we didn't move the ball much, and we kept them off the board. And I think the players showed a lot of resiliency after long drives to be able to get them stopped in the red zone, stop them on the 1 yard line. So I thought the defensive line did a really good job, 9 sacks, but a lot of other pressures that really affected the quarterback. When you play against all that empty, it's really tough coverage. So, they do a good job with what they do, and I thought our players did a good job for the most part of keeping them off the board.
We'll start up from there. Nick, what was the key to the pass rush today? Not only getting to him, but actually he's a big guy, getting him on the ground.
Well, we thought the one thing that might be in our favor in this game was our defensive line against, their offensive line. And we did most of it with 4 guys rushing. Every time we rushed more than 4 and we played man-to-man, he got rid of the ball, and they made a couple big plays. So the 4 front guys that were in there, we played 8 or 9 guys, but they all did a good job of pushing the pocket, and I think that was a real key to the game.
In the middle with Michael.
Derek seems like he had a pretty good game plan against him early. Stop him on 13 yards per quarter. What changed after that?
Well, we didn't run the ball much. We have these run-pass options, and that obviously their game plan was to stop us running the ball. That was their game plan, and they were going to force the quarterback and receivers to make plays. We dropped about 4 or 5 balls on some of those plays today, and those plays are not meant to be big plays, but they're meant to be the same as a run. If you gain 5 yards in the play, you think it's a good play. Well, when you drop the ball, then that's not good. So, but they had the box loaded most of the time, and so we had to get to where we could just run the ball, period, which we did a better job of in the second half. And, Derek did a good job of making some big play runs.
In the back to Scott Griffin.
Hey, Nick, how much can you tell from your experience as a coach when a team like yours doesn't play as well, but still, like you said, has resiliency and fight through this? Can you tell more about a team from that than playing well in a game where you're crisp?
Well, you like for your team as a coach to always play well. Your goal as a coach to always get every player on your team to play the very best that he can. And, we started out the week great. We had probably the best practice this week that we've had for any game all season. But it seemed like by the end of the week, our players seemed a little bit tired for whatever reasons. And this is a tough preparation when you play against the spread, no huddle. Everybody, we're going fast, and everybody's got to go further, especially on defense, on every play than when they just run a play up the middle. So, I thought we were a little flat going into the game, which is certainly my responsibility. I didn't do a good enough job of getting these guys to respond the way we need to. What I tried to say to them was, look, guys, you don't get a gold medal for winning one game. You don't get a gold medal for beating somebody. You get a gold medal when you beat everybody. So you got to play to a high level all the time. And I also told them, I said, you know, you guys all think you beat LSU last week. But if we don't beat Mississippi State, LSU beats us because they'll probably win the division. All right, so every game matters. They're all important. But, you know, we didn't start out the game like we wanted to. But I do have a lot of respect for this team's resiliency to keep playing in the game and work through problems. And that was probably the difference in the game today.
Over here on the left, Mark, how big was that early goal line stand in terms of?
Well, you know, anytime you stop somebody from took 7 points off the board, you know, they chose not to go for a field goal at a time in the game where, you know, we weren't doing much on offense, weren't really getting stopped on defense. They got pretty good field position. We got a penalty that got them down there. So it was a big stop. And the punt return was really big too, which I think came after that because of the field position they created.
What did you see with Derek? It just seems, especially on his really long runs, that he almost picks up speed as he's kind of getting past people. What have you seen on him?
Well, I think that's the kind of back that he is. You know, as long as he is, he does a good job of picking his way through holes. But I think once he gets rolling, he's fast, faster than people think and faster than he looks. So, but what you can always tell is he outruns the angles, and that's when you know somebody's pretty fast.
Back to Tommy.
Coach, on the punt return, did you feel like you were getting close to breaking one over the last few games that potential? Did you see that coming?
Yeah, you know, our punt return has been very productive the last few games. A couple of them have been nullified by penalties that were very positive returns. Today we actually, but you know, when these people do this, we call it bulldog punt, but that's only because Georgia was the first one to do it against us years ago. But sometimes when you rush, you distort the coverage more than when you try to hold them up. Because when you try to hold them up, they read you and they all just take off running, so it becomes like a kickoff. So we were rushing on that play. It was a block, and it really got their coverage distorted, and Cyrus made one guy miss, and you know, they all were in a bunch, so it just was out the gate. So it was good. We blocked a punt this year, and now we have a punt return for a touchdown, and hopefully that'll continue to be a weapon for us.
Front with Dwayne.
Coach, the defense had 57 plays in the first half and didn't let him in the end zone. What does that just say about the guys that continue getting stopped out?
Well, and I think you have to have a lot of patience when you play these guys. You know, they're all spread out. You know, and if you try to take away the short passes, then you give up the big ones because you got to play man-to-man and you got to get in close coverage. And like I said, they weren't empty a bunch today. So we were patient, and when the field shrunk in the red area, they couldn't run the ball against us. We made some plays on the ball, and that kept them out of the end zone. So that was really, really important, you know, until we got it going on offense. And we didn't have that many plays on offense in the first half. I don't know how many, but not many.
Over here to your left, Coach.
Nick, two questions about your defensive front. One is, when you only have to rush four and you can wreak as much havoc as you did today, as a defensive strategist, how does that open things up for you in terms of other things you can do? And I'm wondering if you could put this defensive front in perspective for all the great fronts you've had here.
Well, you know, I think our defensive front is, you know, the strength of our team. Got a lot of guys up there that are big and physical, and they can pass, rush, and run, and they're athletic. And, you know, we've got 8 or 9 of them that can play, which in games like this, you know, is really important because when big guys get tired, you know, when their tank is empty, it usually stays that way. You know, little guys get tired, and, you know, 5 minutes later, they're ready to go again. So it allows us to keep fresh guys in the game, which I think is really, really important. But whether we play a running team like LSU or a passing team, you know, we have enough diversity in our players up front that they can pretty well adapt. So I thought they did a really good job today, even though, you know, Dak got out and scrambled a couple times on us. And but I thought they did a really good job of keeping the pass rush lanes, and overall kept him throwing in the pocket, and we're able to sack him a few times and pressure him a whole bunch more.
Two more. We'll start right here in the white sweater.
Coach, can you elaborate on the loss of Kenny for the next few weeks?
I'm sorry?
Can you elaborate on the loss of Kenny for the next few weeks?
Well, you know, I know everybody's going to say, why is he playing on a kickoff team? you know, because he's one of the best cover guys on our team. You know, Derek played on the punt team for a while. You know, skill guys, running backs, defensive backs, linebackers. You know, those are the kind of guys that make up most of your special teams because those are your matchup guys. Well, in some positions, receiver is one that we're short in because we've gotten so many guys hurt. In certain positions, you need fast guys, you know, and he does a great job, you know, with it. You know, his role on offense has been, you know, not as much as we thought it might be, even though he was doing more. So, you know, we had a guy get the same injury that he did, Alex Watkins, a few years ago, and he played in a week. All right, it's going to be something that they have to repair. Playing defensive end is a little bit different than running the ball. So I think we'll just have to see how it goes. But, you know, hopefully, you know, a couple, 3 weeks, you know, we'll know a lot more.
Last one to talk.
Just curious, I saw you have the cut on your face. What play was that and how did that happen? I didn't see it.
Well, I didn't play today. But, you know, those good pass rushers that we talk about all the time, we knew that we were going to have to stop really, really fast. So when it was third down and we called dime rabbits, those big guys come barreling off the sidelines. Well, Jonathan Allen barreled right into me one time. And the athlete that I am, I was able to keep my feet. But I really couldn't do anything about this. But, you know, the players were really concerned, but they know they don't make them like they used to.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, thank you.